We know it won't run under its own power. We know we can't pull it. But if we could figure out a way to push it up to 88 miles an hour, huh? Here! This spur that runs off the main line 3 miles out to Clayton Ravine. It's a long stretch of level track that will still exist in 1985. This is where we'll push the DeLorean with the locomotive. Funny, this map calls Clayton Ravine Shonash Ravine. That must be the old Indian name for it. It's perfect. Nice long run that goes clear across the bridge over the ravine. You know, over near that Hilldale housing development?
Right, Doc, but according to this map, there is no bridge.
Here! This spur that runs off the main line 3 miles out to Clayton Ravine. It's a long stretch of level track that will still exist in 1985. This is where we'll push the DeLorean with the locomotive. Funny, this map calls Clayton Ravine Shonash Ravine. That must be the old Indian name for it. It's perfect. Nice long run that goes clear across the bridge over the ravine. You know, over near that Hilldale housing development.
Right, Doc, but according to this map, there is no bridge.
Nice long run that goes clear across the bridge over the ravine. You know, over near that Hilldale housing development.
Right, Doc, but according to this map, there is no bridge.
Well, Doc, we can scratch that idea. I mean, we can't wait around a year and a half for this thing to get finished.
Marty, it's perfect. You're just not thinking fourth dimensionally.
Right, I have a real problem with that.
Don't you see? The bridge will exist in 1985. It's safe and still in use. Therefore, as long as we get the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour before we hit the edge of the ravine, we'll instantaneously arrive at a point in time where the bridge is completed. We'll have track under us and coast safely across the ravine.
What about the locomotive?
It'll be a spectacular wreck. Too bad no one will be around to see it.
How far does the 8 o'clock train go?
San Francisco's the end of the line.
I'll take a one-way ticket.
San Francisco's the end of the line.
Hey, butthead, get away!
Watch it, Biff.
Farty! I didn't mean to scare you. I didn't recognize you in those clothes.
What the hell are you doing?
Just putting on the second coat now. You going cowboy, huh?
Come on, guys. We're gonna be late for brunch.
Come on, Dad. We're not gonna hold your reservations all day.
Lorraine, have you seen my glasses?
Your suede jacket, honey. Marty, what's wrong? We thought you went to the lake.
You wore that to the lake?
Thank God you guys are all back to normal.
Hey, Marty, who are you supposed to be? Hey, Marty, who are you supposed to be? Clint Eastwood?
It's great, Doc. Thanks.
Your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one. Both of you.
His name was Joseph Strauss. His title, Chief Engineer, Golden Gate Bridge and Highway District. Joseph Strauss is the man who led a corps of creative engineers and a legion of rugged men in designing and building the Golden Gate Bridge. Few people remember today, but for 15 years before the steel was formed for the Golden Gate Bridge, it was regarded by many as the bridge that could not be built. In 1918, the city engineer of San Francisco approached Joseph Strauss, then a consulting engineer with a long list of bridge contracts to his credit. The city engineer asked if a bridge could be built across the Golden Gate at a reasonable cost. After 3 years of study, Strauss replied that it could for $27 million. This was in 1921. Such a bridge was an obvious need. San Francisco Bay formed a 50-mile-long barrier to highway traffic in the San Francisco area. And the entrance from the sea, known as the Golden Gate, separated the growing city on the south from the lightly populated and excellent recreation areas of Marin County. While a bridge was an obvious need, it was not an obvious possibility. The challenge was not to bridge a river or a valley, but an arm of the ocean. The proposed bridge was this one, impressive in its simplicity, modern in its concept. The center span from tower to tower would be 4,200 feet long, the longest ever attempted in that time. The side spans would each be 1,125 feet long. The roadway would be some 250 feet above the choppy waters of the bay. That was how matters stood in 1921. 11 years of stormy controversy followed. The opponents raised many objections. Some said the bridge couldn't possibly be built. Other critics said the bridge would cost an exorbitant sum, almost $100 million. And to a city that remembered a disastrous earthquake, there was an ominous note. The bridge would be only a few miles from the San Andreas Fault. The battle was fought vigorously in the courts and in the newspaper columns. But the dreamers and the builders won out. Construction began officially on January 5th, 1933.
The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers.
Why are you telling me all these things?
The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers. The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers. The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers.
Homer, come here.
Could you forgive me and totally blame my friends?
The film you're about to see is old, but these flickering scenes still portray the story of building this great bridge. In the fabricating shops of the Bethlehem Steel Company at Pottstown and Steelton, Pennsylvania, the fabrication work begins. Bethlehem, the major contractor, will build the steel towers and suspended span of the bridge. Huge sections, formed and temporarily assembled at the shops, are disassembled and shipped by rail to the Philadelphia docks. It takes miles of railroad cars to carry the steel for the towers and suspended span. At Philadelphia, the sections are loaded aboard ships of Bethlehem's Kalmar Line for the long trip to San Francisco by way of the Panama Canal. And finally, through the Golden Gate into San Francisco Bay. The steelwork is unloaded at Bethlehem's facilities at Alameda, across the bay from San Francisco. Here, the sections of the bridge are stored to be shipped out to the construction site in sequence. But the job is far from over. Painters apply the final coat, a special color prepared for this bridge, International Orange by name.
Ray? I see it! All right, hold on. We gotta get over it before it crests.
newspaper accounts vary on the amount of celebrating done by San Francisco. Some say 4 days, some say a week. It was a celebration worthy of the bridge. The fact that men who never saw a blueprint or drove a rivet were so deeply proud of the accomplishment proved that all men are builders at heart, conquerors of the impossible. But some men, the engineers, earn and cherish the privilege of doing the dreaming, the planning, the building. It was such men who designed and built the Golden Gate Bridge.
From the ground and from the sky, Eyewitness News was there to capture the end of an era in Bethlehem. 47 years of industrial history embodied in the Martin Tower went up in smoke with 485 pounds of explosives in just a matter of 15 seconds. Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore takes us to the spectacle in the Lehigh Valley.
The implosion rocked parts of the Lehigh Valley.
It was louder than I thought, like you feel it in your feet.
The height of the anticipation,
I kind of want to see it again.
Diminished after 15 seconds. That's the time it took for the iconic 21-story Martin Tower on 8th and Eaton Avenues in Bethlehem to come tumbling down, leaving a plume of dust in the air. It took crews 485 pounds of explosives to demolish the vacant building.
I'm kind of sad to see it go, but, you know, it was still an exciting event.
Pretzels! It certainly was a spectacle the community did not want to miss. Some even dressed for the occasion.
It was a bad Halloween costume from 1994 when they imploded the Sears catalog building.
This building's reign over Bethlehem came to an end Sunday after a nearly 50-year run. It's the largest building in the valley. Martin Tower opened in 1972 as Bethlehem Steel Corporation's main headquarters.
Yes, it stands for manufacturing in the United States. That has now gone.
This is a company that built the Golden Gate Bridge and launched 1,121 ships during World War II.
What did I tell you? 88 miles per hour!
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
Trevor, we really liked the last album.
That's great.
Since we're an international media company, you're gonna have to meet with the higher-ups and go over some stuff. Is that all right?
Sure.
Wow. Hi, we're the Illuminati.
Hi.
Before you can do a special on a major cable network, we're going to need you to sign some things.
We're also going to need you to swear a blood oath to us and our cause. And if you violate this oath, we're going to murder you and everyone that you love.
You'll also need to pledge your soul to Baphomet. He's this god that we all worship.
We will need you to include some of our messaging in your program. Like, we use a lot of hip-hop artists to glorify violence and drugs, pop stars to push materialism, country acts to instill suspicion of education. We're going to need a suicide note in your own handwriting, just in case things get crazy.
Hebrew name. It's the Lion Gate, and you can see, and you can see why there's two lions each side of. Another thing, the name, the English, the Christian name for it is St. Stephen Gate. So Stephen went out. The Muslim name is Saint Mary Gate. Maria. Because the Muslims believe in the Holy Family and they actually worship the tomb of Mary. Yeah. They worship the tomb of Mary, then in that case you can understand why it's so important. Then let's go into the city. And as you can see, the people are coming to pray and it's like a market time. The wall, oh yes, yes. There's no reason to die today. The walls are from the 16th century, then the doors are from the 16th century too. Now, look to your left side. You can see the Muslims entering into the Temple Mount. Be careful! yeah, I know. Now you can see the Muslims are going in to pray. But we are going to...
Peculiar place to have a party. You know, Dino, we really shouldn't be doing this. After all, we haven't been invited, and curiosity often leads to trouble. Goodbye, Dino. Goodbye.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
Tesla's secret experiment. X-rays, microwaves, radiation therapy, radar, every harmful beam you can imagine was created by Trump's paternal uncle. He was involved in all of them. All this before confiscating the work of Nikola Tesla on the 33rd floor of the New York City Hotel.
Peace and security.
The lesson of history is that peace and security do not come easily.
Peace and stability that people on all sides long for.
Two states for two peoples living side by side in peace and security is not a vague slogan, but a real necessity for the stability in the entire region.
Israel and Palestinians, they can live side by side in peace and security. This is our vision, and this is our commitment.
Of a new deal, peace and security and friendship.
My hopes and dreams for Israel are to live in peace and security.
Well, we're very appreciative of your team and all the efforts that they've made. The President is very committed to achieving a solution here that will be able to bring prosperity and peace to all people in this area. And we really appreciate the commitment of the Prime Minister and his team to engaging very thoughtfully and respectfully in the way that the President has asked them to do so. So the relationship between Israel and America is stronger than ever, and we really thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for his leadership and his partnership.
Thank you. Two states living side by side in peace and security. True security for all Israelis. We will also pursue peace between Israel and Lebanon.
In peace and security.
Israel and Syria.
Peace and security.
And a broader peace between Israel and its many neighbors. Must decide whether we are serious about peace and security. To recognize Israel's legitimacy and its right to exist in peace and security. That's how we will find new pathways to peace and security. That is the work that we must do.
In peace and security.
Peace and security and coexistence.
A movement towards peace. If we have this triangle, economy, security, and peace, then peace can succeed.
Astrophysically, it is practically as interesting if we found mats of microbial life as it would if it was like a green alien with a ray gun, because it's life somewhere off of Earth. That's the boundary we'd be crossing in our quest to convert ignorance into knowledge.
Do you think that it would unite humanity?
Good point. So I don't know for sure, but I can tell you, given how tribal we have all been, especially in recent years, where we are finding reasons to separate ourselves and then fight, to find life somewhere else might be the first occasion to unify Earth as a tribe of its own.
It's just a myth. So what does cause it? What causes it? The world causes it. This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airway. Live without it. Let me do my work.
The cure is made you the vessel of his mercy as I am the vessel of his wrath.
Jones.
Spawn of Satan!
Dive in.
Hold your fire. He's eating a seal.
The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers.
Why are you telling me all these things?
The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers. The Golden Gate Bridge.
Seus Lucifer matutinus inveniat Ille inquam Lucifer qui nescito casum
that part of what makes our country great is that our membership is based not on our bloodline, not on what we look like, what our last names are. It's not based on where our parents or grandparents came from or how recently they arrived, but on adherence to a common creed.
My fellow citizens, that I took an oath. 35 simple words that have been repeated by every American president throughout history.
Let's go, Brandon!
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
If these people took off their masks, they all have them on, I notice.
I shouldn't be starting off and negotiating in public here, but let me say it this way. I wanted to be president not to live in the White House, in the yellow room, you know, the oval upstairs. I just want you to know I had permission to hug Lonnie.
That's outrageous. What the hell are we doing? We're going to make sure. Now we look at 2022. I want to tell my Republican friends, get ready, pal. You're going in for a problem.
That you focus on, you're constantly focusing on.
It's about who gets to count the vote and whether your vote counts at all.
You know, I'm not Abraham Lincoln. I'm not Franklin Roosevelt. How do I deal with?
Let's go, Brandon.
I get up in the morning, look at Joe and say, where the hell are we?
I just said to Jill, you guys should have walked up the station. You were so sensitive.
Let's not kid ourselves. Joe is shot, okay? He's shot. He is a vehicle, and he's got his vice president, who is further left than Crazy Bernie, okay?
The presidency of the United States is a role unique in the world, an office entrusted to each president by us, we the people.
Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. I'm just going to follow on with this series in regards to the importance of the number 33 across time, across cultures, across the world. This focus of this one will be on churches and cathedrals. So number 33. Earlier I did an episode just on religion, so just some of the examples of Christianity, but also connections to Masonic traditions as well. For instance, Jacob's ladder. Jacob mentioned 33 times before having this dream, and like the ladder, stairway to heaven. It's interesting, Genesis 33:1. But okay, King David, 40-year reign, but 33 in Jerusalem. Jesus, 40 days in the wilderness, but he was 33 when he died. Leviticus 12, 3, or was it 4? 33 days, also 66 days in regards to after childbirth and whether women can enter the temple. But Anglican Rosary, and this will be important, the Anglican Rosary, 33 beads. So now we go back to Newtown here in Sydney, St. Stephen's Anglican Church, by this very important, very important architect, Edmund Blackett. Not just for Australia, but it was also, at the time, he was considered something of a world expert on Gothic architecture. And this is just one of the churches he built. And his original gravesite was here at St. Stephen's in Newtown, along with his wife. So that's St. Stephen's Anglican in Newtown. His body was moved to St. Andrew's Anglican Cathedral, the major cathedral here in Sydney, and there's a plaque there as well. Now, for instance, it's just a section from one of the booklets at the church, the St. Andrew's Anglican Cathedral. What it lacks in size, the clever treatment of the interior, entirely the work of Edmund Blackett, the brilliant architect who contributed many fine churches and buildings to Australia, including the Great Hall, main quadrangle at Sydney University, many other buildings as well. Blackett was a designer of some 100 churches and a world authority on Gothic architecture. His memorial plaque, okay, so St. Andrews are some of the finest examples of 19th century Gothic revival style. It was not the biggest church, but the beauty of it, it is a very, very beautiful cathedral. It's here in Sydney. We had some excellent architects and the stonemasons here at the time. Brilliant stuff here in Australia. But the tower height, 130 feet, but the height of the cathedral itself, 97 feet. So 130 minus 97 is 33 feet. It's embedded in there as well. But back to St. Stephen's Anglican Church, Newtown, by Edmund Blackett. So the height of the spire, 132 feet, or 2 Gunter's chain of 66 feet, or 4, sometimes called Rathbone chain, of 33 feet. So it's a nice division of 33. However, the length of the church is 110 feet long. That's 330 hands. But that's not the only reference, because inside the clerestory itself is 33 feet high. Now St. Peter and Paul's Old Catholic Cathedral in Goulburn, here in Australia as well. Entering from Burke Street, the visitor beholds an unbroken space of 141 by 33 feet wide. While the transept, so the long axis, so just like cathedrals are designed like a cross, so the long axis to transepts is basically the short piece going across, and they're 33 feet wide and 30 feet high, but 33 feet again in this Catholic cathedral. St. Patrick's Catholic Cathedral in Manhattan, the spires are 330 feet high, which brings us to Chartres Cathedral, which is one of the holy of holies of architecture. And it was at a time when Chartres and these other great early Gothic cathedrals suddenly popped up, this architecture, because before you had Romanesque, and so you had very thick walls with very little windows, very little light. It was a very dark space. What happened? Essentially, it's when the Templars, or you could say in the Knights of St. John, the Hospitallers returned from the Holy Land, there was an explosion of knowledge. The Corpus Hermeticum was reintroduced to Europe. 121 feet, that's 330 Saxon hands, which again is linked to the Raw Babylonian or the Mohenjo-Daro and these other units. So 330, 333 in different units, it's always repeated. Now also at Chartres Cathedral, which portal is the west. And what we have is, well, Aristotle, Pythagoras, Ptolemy, Euclid's Elements, famous geometry. So you have famous astronomers, mathematicians, Greek ones here on this Chartres Cathedral. But we also have dialectic, rhetoric, geometry, math or arithmetic, astronomy, and grammar and music. And what are they? They are grammar, dialectic, rhetoric, music, astronomy, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. These are the 7 liberal arts.
Number 8, we will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice? In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
Joining me now is Professor Emeritus Hillel Weiss from Bar-Ilan University. He's a professor of Hebrew literature, lawyer, and an activist that promotes the rebuilding of a third Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Now, that, of course, is a very controversial position, since that is also the site of the third most important Muslim holy site, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Professor Weiss, great to have you on the show. First, tell me a little bit about this initiative that you are going to, it's just happening this month in September.
We want to establish a new organization, which is, his name is the 17 Nations. The 17 nations come from the Bible, the story of the flood, that after the flood, all the humanity, all the sons of Noah have been scattered all over the world. They made a rebellion. They tried to build the Tower of Babylon. And then God was very angry because it was against to prevent the Mabul. They didn't take seriously
the flood.
The flood, or they saw that they can twist the resolution of God. Then God saw them out, and they are in exile.
You believe the nations will come and repent.
We want to establish an international court according the laws of the Bible, but in a modern interpretation. All those 70 nations on the entire globe to cooperate not only towards the temple, but to, like the United Nations, that mostly is against the laws of Noah in family affairs and many other affairs. We want to repair the United Nations.
Now, the seven liberal arts are usually said to have emerged around about this time because these type of cathedrals were not just temples, they were treasury buildings, university buildings, administrative centres. They were much more than just a church. And we see here, so they were teaching the seven liberal arts here. There are many people who would just show that the seven liberal arts have their origins at least in ancient Greece, which would then say, well, where did the Greeks and Romans, they learnt from Heliopolis and the Egyptians and the Chaldeans, so you could not stretching the bow too long to say that the seven liberal arts emerged much older, but at least solid, in a solid, undeniable, factual sense, seven liberal arts, Chartres Cathedral, and this period. And why is that important? Because look at a Mason tracing book. Now, Masons even say that they emerged from these cathedral builders. Could be a lot to be said about that. We see like a tracing board, we see the 3, the 5, and the 7 steps. Now we have, the 5 orders of architecture: composite, Corinthian, Ionic, Doric, Tuscan, which relate to one of the 5 senses. But we have the top 7 steps, and there's more to this than just this, but the 7 steps: astronomy, music, geometry, arithmetic, logic, rhetoric, and grammar, the 7 liberal arts. And here's a stairway up to what do we have again? Astronomy, music, that's geometry, just arithmetic, logic, rhetoric, grammar. We see the 5 Roman orders of architecture, and we have wisdom, strength, and beauty as well, which are the first 3 steps. Now these would also connect to the 3 Greek orders of architecture, which are Corinthian, Ionic, and Doric. We also connect to measure scales. But just as an example, so this inside Chartres and these other cathedrals, you'll see the compass and the square and the masons at work. And stone, masons began as stone masons, tilers, also brick masons. The skills, Masonic, as in masonry skills as well, is even the masons themselves. Say they will even claim that it goes back further to Greek and Roman, because it's just full of stonework, and back to Egypt, where these the magic of the stone workers and the special skills involved, the science of doing, because it wasn't just hammer and chisel, they were using different methods. So, but anyway, that's something else. So.
All right, what is the Trilateral Commission?
It's an organization founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller to bring together business and political leaders from the United States, Europe, Japan, so they could work together for
better economic and political cooperation between their nations.
Well, that's what they'd like us to believe. But you see, what they're really up to is a scheme to plant their own loyal members in positions of power in this country, to work to erase national boundaries and create an international community, and in time bring about a one world government with David Rockefeller calling the shots.
Simply put, this country and this world benefit from your commitment to Jesuit principles, to being men. As a graduate of another great Jesuit institution, Xavier University, I have great affection for the value and purpose of a Jesuit education.
The connections between the 7 liberal arts, geometry, music, arithmetic, and especially the quadrivium, astronomy, geometry, music, and arithmetic. And we see it used by architects, still embedded in all biblical traditions, but also going through to so this is Australia, but again going back to the ancient Gothic cathedrals as well, and it's always in that. It is essential. It is an essential part of this type of architecture, but we can find again in the ancient world, in ancient from the UK right over to ancient India. It's there. It's repeated, and it's a constant. And it's not just one. It's not just about 33. It's about having multiple levels, such as 365. 528 and or 555 being 6,660 inches, and it's a long story anyway. Cheerio, have a good one.
Where am I? Grandpa? What are you doing here?
Chris, welcome to the Skull and Bones Society. This is where the most powerful men in the world are groomed for their futures. Every president, every CEO, every douchebag named Ryan Seacrest. The Skull and Bones Society has been a part of my family for decades, and we want you to become a member.
Really? Wow, cool!
Excellent! You get your own stock portfolio, a percentage of the 9/11 Victims Fund, and the best medical care on the planet. You'll be kept as healthy as a horse.
My name is Karelin. I am the supervisor for Earth. Under our supervision, you will all flourish here. Peace, health, security for everyone.
Why are you here?
We need a messenger between the overlords and Earth. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I want to see who I'm talking to.
The overlords talk about peace, but this is an invasion.
Look at the good here. There is no war, no disease.
I would rather the world went down under our control and flourished under theirs.
You've never wanted what's best for us.
There's no need to be afraid.
They want to destroy us.
This is not about us. This is about the whole damn world.
Tell them the truth about what you really are.
This world will be okay. Won't it?
So, how does Trump fit into all this? Well, Trump's uncle was brought in when Tesla died. Okay? In this hotel. So, Trump's uncle was at MIT for decades. Trump was involved in radar research for the Allies in the Second World War. And in 1943, the FBI had enough faith in his technical ability and his discretion to call him in when Nikola Tesla died in his room at the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan, raising the question of whether enemy agents might have had a chance to learn some of his secrets before the body was found. One fear was that Tesla was working on a death ray. I mean, who knows what this thing could have been, right? This could have been a giant laser. Maybe they were creating a giant laser that shot up and was trying to break the firmament. I mean, who knows? All this stuff is connected. The Hoover Dam's connected to the Twin Towers, connected to the New Yorker Hotel, connected to the One World Freedom Tower. These Masons build these things, okay? They build them. And it's all part of a plan that transcends generations. It transcends people's ages, which points to a higher intelligence. And I got news for you. It ain't God. It ain't God. Okay? These people are transcending their own lifespans in these projects and passing on the information generation to generation. It's unbelievable sometimes when you try to wrap your brain around what's really going on here. I mean, I've got these numbers up and I can't even believe it myself. 33,000 square feet of meeting space. He knew. I mean, he would know. He knows what 33 means. He wasn't dumb. Would you have really let them put him on the 33rd floor without knowing about what 33 means? I mean, 33 transcends into the scientific world as well. There's a lot of things that 33 relates to, not just in the spiritual realm, but the scientific realm as well. And he must have been onto it. The fact that it was 1933, he was 77. I mean, he must have put all this together. Okay, he wasn't a stupid man, which suggests that he was part of it. But again, I don't know. It's a mirror. It's a 33 mirror, which is the same as this generator, this steam generator. This is also a 3 mirrored. Look at that. 33 in the floor plan of this building, the New Yorker Hotel. Now remember, that generator that you're looking at on your screen right now is almost the same steam generator that's down in the basement of this building. So it's definitely intentional in the floor plan of the building.
Delivery.
Messenger not sighted. What could you be? An alien artifact? A bringer of life? Oh, you're a box. Very handsome. Commanding. Where did you come from? Now, if my measurements are correct, Great Scott!
heading for the Golden Gate Bridge.
May 1937. With the bridge at last completed, the long-awaited day arrives. Joseph Strauss proudly pronounces his bridge open to the world. The Golden Gate, the world's most famous bridge, has been under constant attack from nature's destructive forces. Of all the forces of nature that San Francisco's structures face, earthquake is the ultimate destroyer. But here again, the elements rear their ugly head. Disaster strikes, fierce winds bend its towers. Sea fog, laden with corrosive salt, eats away at its massive metal heart. The prediction is there is less than 35 years to save San Francisco's most beloved landmark. In San Francisco, it's happened before, and it's going to happen again. Right now, the city and its famous bridge are staring down the barrel of a gun. For about 3 months of the year, the Golden Gate has its own private weather nightmare. The corrosion of the steel by salty fog is slowly, silently killing the bridge. Treacherous currents batter its foundation. The winds at the entrance to the bay are far too menacing. The cold, damp fog eats metal and creates evil working conditions. And the raging waters racing through the gate are way too wild to build a structure in. Deep inside the rock, an unimaginable force is building. When the pressure gets too much, the earth moves. With a tireless team relentlessly replacing the cracking concrete and rusting iron, the bridge stays one step ahead. To stand any chance of survival, the steel and concrete of the 70-year-old superstructure is undergoing a major overhaul. It's this clash that creates an even more destructive element than the wind. What they don't know is that a destructive force far greater is building in the ground beneath their feet, and it threatens the very existence of the bridge. For the 70-year-old Golden Gate Bridge, it's very bad news. There is no warning. It's all over in 40 terrifying seconds. People are killed in their sleep. Even for seasoned Californians, the intensity was beyond experience. So how can a retrofit, unlike anything done on a suspension bridge before, save the Golden Gate from the next big one? The next stage of this supreme construction achievement is to push the boundaries of engineering, result in a tragic series of deaths, that in order to stay standing, the Golden Gate Bridge urgently needs a serious upgrade. So with all these destructive elements stacked up against you, why on earth build a bridge? But after everything it's been through, it remains the Golden Gate, the most famous, most admired bridge in the world.
Save the clock tower! Save the clock tower! Save the clock tower! Save the clock tower!
talking about this old spy, yada, yada, yada. But it led me back to the independence of Israel. So May 14th. But I went back to Israel declaring their independence. And this just kind of blew me away what I found here. Okay? Their declaration ceremony. I know it's a lot, but I just got to give it to you this way. When they declared their independence on May 14th, they told the recipients to arrive at 15:30 and to keep the event a secret. The event started at 1600, 4 p.m., a time chosen as to not breach the Sabbath. So at 4 p.m. on May 14th, 1948, they declared their independence. Meanwhile, in the United States of America, Harry Truman was president. Harry was a simple farm boy who was responsible for dropping giant firebombs over like 100,000 people in Japan. No big deal. He also was key in bringing in NASA and establishing that giant satanic fakery. Okay? And this is all the synagogue of Satan. All of this. This goes back thousands of years. But Truman recognized the state of Israel on May 14th, 1948, 11 minutes after it declared itself a nation. Why is that important to put in historically? Well, I'll tell you why. Because at 4 o'clock, when they declared their independence in Israel, we in the United States are 7 hours behind them. So 4 o'clock would be 9 o'clock. So Mr. Truman recognized Israel at 9/11 on May 14th. Now that ain't where it ended, because you remember the other day I was showing you these weird maps, right, that I came across? How in Paris the sun sets on May 1st through all the arches, right? Well, get a load of this. Everyone knows we're talking about Harry Truman, right? He recognized Israel. And we should all be familiar with the unfinished upside-down pentagram in Washington, D.C., right? Now, I'm going to do the best I can to illustrate this to you, okay? There's the unfinished pentagram in Washington, D.C. This is Washington Circle, this is New Hampshire, and this is Pennsylvania Avenue that runs to the White House and down to the Capitol. Now, you just gotta get a load of this. On May 14th, of all days, May 14th, the sun will rise in perfect alignment to complete the unfinished pentagram. That's crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Donald Trump Museum, dedicated to America's #1 citizen and America's greatest living folk hero, the one and only Donald Trump. Learn the amazing history of the Trump family.
Somebody criticized me the other day because they asked me what I do, and I said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. It's true. I don't care.
And I guess I have some very good enemies, and I like it that way somehow. And I really believe in trashing your enemies.
Inside, you will learn how Donald Trump's father left him a large inheritance.
Nobody's going to do more women than Donald Trump. That I can tell you. That I can tell you. And I think they know it.
Discover how in 2016 Donald Trump successfully lobbied to legalize gambling.
Part of the beauty of me is that I'm very rich.
He wants to run for president and move on into the White House. Why not?
Share in the stupidity of the average American as they made him the 45th president of the United States.
That will easily go down as the greatest president in the history of the United States. Me, Donald John Trump.
No! Hey, no! Hey, wait, you come with us upstairs.
There we go, Sonny. We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
The easy way.
The Freemasons have the apotheosis of Washington in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., of Washington becoming God, which is the same as Titus becoming God in the apotheosis. So man being God, and being God, they keep repeating this. What do they want to do these days with Kurzweil, transhumanism, and all these other things? They want to make man God. Michio Kaku saying that, nanobots can replace the synaptic material of the brain until you just have a schematic brain. And in a future show, we'll get really heavy duty into the brain chips of IBM and other things of the hive mind that we have been researching for so long. But this show is specifically just to show the in plain sight rebellion of modern man through the United Nations and all these global leaders, that they are doing the same thing the Titus Arch presents. They are going to rebel, declare themselves God, and we have no need of a God because we are our own gods. That really came home for me when I looked at this event that I became aware of off of watching a Fox News presentation called the Invictus Games. Where do we get the name Invictus from, Chris?
From the sun god, Sol Invictus.
And when is that birthday, Sol Invictus, celebrated?
December 25th.
You've all been missing, presumed dead for 5.5 years.
If you'd seen us that afternoon, we looked like a typical American family returning home from vacation. My brother Ben and his twins, Olive and Cal. But what you couldn't see is that Cal's leukemia wasn't responding to treatment.
This flight is oversold. We are offering travel vouchers for any...
That's me. So Grace and Olive and my folks took the first flight home. Funny how one little decision can ruin your life, but also save it. Excuse me, what exactly is the problem?
The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is you've all been missing, presumed dead for 5.5 years.
I don't understand. You haven't aged a day.
Olive.
Where's Mom?
Your mom got sick.
No, Dad! No,
Your cell regeneration model?
It works.
We've been treating pediatric patients for 30 months. We pick up with the same regimen, right where we left off.
There's a new treatment protocol for pediatric cases. If we get a jump in the treatment, the odds are excellent.
Didn't expect you getting back to work this fast.
A lot has changed since you've been gone.
Who is she?
It was 2 years before I even looked at another woman.
Even before I got on that plane, I lost sight of your life. We're gonna fix that. I'm not going anywhere.
The universe just gave all of us a do-over.
Everything checks out. It's as if the plane never left the sky.
Do I have to say out loud that that's impossible?
I think we've taken impossible off the table.
Is your mind messing with you? Earlier today, I heard a voice in my head.
Keep it to yourself. What do you think? The government just forgot about us?
Just maybe he came back to be saved, and I came back to save him. How'd you know I was here?
I just knew.
What is this? There were a lot of people on that plane. What makes us so special?
What's the probability it's just you and me?
No one can explain what happened to us. Some people called it impossible. Others called it a miracle. All I know is whatever force brought us all here had no interest in being investigated. This was just the beginning.
They worship themselves, essentially. They believe that they have within them the means to attain from the tree of life and live forever without having to deal with God, without needing a savior, without having to be atoned for the filth of the flesh. and they are of their father, the devil. That's who runs Israel right now, people. That's just the way it is. And not just Israel, but Washington, D.C., Paris, France, New York, New York. This is the New World Order, and the synagogue of Satan is directly behind it all. They're liars, people. Not all Jews are part of this. You understand? It's very, very difficult, and you'll never figure it out and understand it if you're not in the Spirit of Christ, because it witnesses the truth. I don't hate the Jews. I hate the synagogue of Satan because they are the seed of Satan. And they're out to destroy, kill, and steal men's souls. Just be aware that you're in this spiritual war, and you're not battling against men. These are spiritual powers and principalities, wickedness in high places. It's a spirit that can only be fought through the Spirit of the living God by Jesus Christ. It's the only way to defeat this. So I pray you know him, and I pray you seek him if you don't. That's about all I got for you, so peace and grace to you.
So here we got the sun worshipers, and everybody's heard for a long time that, we've been doing the worshipers of the moon versus the worshipers of the sun. We discussed CERN being over the temple of the sun with the Apollyon, and in Jerusalem and things with the temples of the moon. There's those who worship the sun, those who worship the moon, and a lot of this stuff goes back to sun worship. I just found that this one was connected to the royal family through Prince Harry, and it's a very interesting game. It's basically to support wounded warriors.
It really bothered me for a few things. I mean, we know that Prince Harry claims that he is an inheritor of the royalties, of the royal family, and I do believe, in my opinion, that's the bloodline of Cain. But it really bothered me because it says, I am. Jesus is I am. He is the light of the world. Jesus is the great I am. And so when I keep seeing this, I'm the master of my fate, I'm the captain of my soul, it really bothered me because Jesus should be the captain of everybody's soul.
Lisa, do you see them? The rings of Saturn.
I do. The question is, what is 5/6?
The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers. The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers. The Golden Gate Bridge is the longest span between two towers.
Why are you telling me all these things?
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
I take it there will be no HAL 9000 going up to Mars.
Are you ready for it?
It's one more reason Delta is more than just a faucet. See what Delta can do.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Come on, wake up! Wake up!
Jesus in the morning. Seek Jesus in the noonday hour. Seek Jesus in the evening before the sun is going down. He said, "Knock, and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will be open to you, and he will come on in and sup with you a while." Hallelujah. Listen here. Call upon the name of the Lord and pray to him. If you seek him, you will find him. When you seek him with all your heart. Those who know the name of the Lord, they will surely trust in him. For the Lord never will forsake the one who is honestly, oh Lord, and seeking him. Everybody on, seek Jesus in the morning. Seek Jesus in the noonday hour. Seek Jesus in the evening before the sun is going down. He said, "Knock, and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will be open to you, and he will come on in and sup with you a while." Listen here. Without faith it is impossible to please the Lord. We must first believe that he exists and he rewards every one of us. Those who know the name of the Lord, they will surely trust in him. For the Lord never will forsake the one who is honestly seeking him. Hallelujah. Everybody ought to seek Jesus in the morning. Seek Jesus in the noonday hour. Seek Jesus in the evening before the sun is going down. He said, "Knock, and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find."